Yeah, we had those same questions ourselves, and we conducted a whole bunch of research a year ago on this to try and figure that out. I mean, we had a pretty good idea just from the amount of visits and clients that we have. We always thought that money was the biggest problem, but it's not actually. The number one problem is content migration. And I mean, when you think about it, it makes sense, doesn't it? Migrating content from documents into component content management is difficult. I mean, you've got all sorts of challenges. You've got to break it up. In a lot of cases, people say you've got to wrap XML tags around everything. You've got to convert essentially static documents to components, and it is the number one barrier. And so, this is one area that we've really focused on because obviously we want to remove the barriers when moving to content management or moving to Authored in particular. We've invested a lot of time and effort in our import engine, and we're able to just pick up a document. It automatically breaks it down into topics, sucks it and puts it in the database, and literally as soon as it's imported you can publish it to any of the formats that Authored supports. So we've tried to solve that problem because it is in fact the number one problem. And what we're finding is that when people are looking at migrating, that's also the area that they underestimate the most. They seem to think that once they've gone down the road of choosing the tool and the technology that they want to implement, that the conversion is going to be the easy part, and it's not. Quite ironically, we get a number of clients now have gone down the path of either trying to migrate their content to DITA or other XML formats that they've developed in-house, and now they're saying, well, okay, we've successfully managed to do that, however, now we want a tool that's actually easy to use in terms of creating the content. And with a standardized format like DITA, yes, migration is relatively straightforward, provided people have stuck to the standard, which they don't. But when you're talking about people's own XML formats, and we've seen some pretty creative examples of people trying different structures in XML and trying to achieve reuse, and that stuff is actually more difficult to migrate than give me a Word document and would be able to bring that in a matter of minutes. With proprietary XML or XML where you've gone to design your own structure, someone's got to write something to convert that, whether it's a transformation or some other means of converting it. And it kind of flies in the face of what everyone believes they're getting with XML as well. People believe they're getting portability, they believe they're getting the, I suppose, independence or tool agnostic data, and while it is in some cases correct, I mean, you can go and open it in Notepad if you really want to, the real measure of whether or not your format is going to help you is how easy it is to migrate into another tool. So it's a very, very interesting what we've been seeing in the industry over the last few years, is that people just aren't getting what they believe they think they're getting when they're moving to XML, and then they're faced with a further move beyond that. So yeah, importing the biggest barrier, and I think that it's something you really need to consider when you're looking at tool selection, when you're looking at migrating your data, is how are you going to get it there? And a lot of companies we talk to have thousands and thousands of pages of content to migrate, and you need to make sure you can get that across simply, easily, and be productive, meeting your deadlines as quickly as possible.